My objective with AI is assisted music production. So that's what I call it. And I want to do whatever I can, like on my YouTube channel and things, and in my Berklee classes, to use AI as a tool to assist with music production. Therefore, the more human you can have in the mix, the better. So in terms of all of those AI rating systems, as I said, it's a thought experiment to understand what are the different levels. Because Bandcamp, as you know, just like said, there's no AI. We're not going to allow AI. And as a matter of fact, we're going to let the community police that. So to me, that is just asking for freaking problems.
Hey everybody, it's Matt from AI DIY, the AI music guy. Music is for everyone. The website is aidiy.tech. Today I did a podcast interview with Erik Hawk. Erik is a really interesting guy. He's been in music for decades. He's been a very early adopter of technology to create music remotely because he teaches at Berklee School of Music online. So he's able to communicate and create music remotely. He's an early uptaker of AI. He has his, opinions on how a rating system should work. We had an interesting conversation whether it should exist or shouldn't and the reasons why. Very mature conversation. It wasn't a debate. We were just talking about the pros and cons and why we feel each way. But either way, it was a very interesting conversation with a very accomplished person in music. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and stay tuned. Yeah, nice to meet you, man. How's the weather where you are? I'm thinking I'm thinking you're in Boston.
I'm not. Even though I work for Berklee Online in Boston, I don't have the privilege of living there. I've been in Los Angeles. So I was working in Los Angeles for like 25 years doing music. And within the past year, I relocated to Northern California, which is about 4 hours north of San Francisco. So up near the Oregon border.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Cool. Well, then I'll remove that part out of my notes.
Cool.
There's a lot of stuff about Berklee and all that stuff, which I do want to touch on. Thanks for coming, by the way.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, it's all right. I never thought like, hey, one day I want to do podcasting, but I sort of decided I would start highlighting a few people in the community. And at one point, it just became like, I can't wait to talk to this person and find out what they're all about. And that's pretty much how I approach everyone. I get super pumped. I'm like, it's like, no matter like how many people are in relatively the same space, like everybody has their own take on things. And I'm just really excited about this one, especially seeing we're going to be working together with your other project too. So, and I'll talk about that separately.
Cool. Yeah. And so, yeah, you had one of my associates on, Ben Camp, who,
yes, I was going to talk about Ben Camp and what Ben's he is a dude that's very laser focused when you talk to him to make sure that you understand what the frick he's talking about. There's no ambiguity in it. And he's a really, like, he invited me over to his class to talk because he liked the heart part of what I do, is like talk about communities and stuff like that. And he's like, that's very interesting. And so it's not like, I only want to talk about technical aspects of music. He's just into all of it.
So. Yeah, no, I mean, well, he's in the songwriting department, and that's like, I'm in the music production department. He's in the songwriting department. So we have a slightly different angle on things, but yeah, he's awesome.
Do you guys work together at all?
No, he's in the, I just see him in staff meetings and things. I don't know him personally. Okay. I know that he's developed some online classes using AI for songwriting at Berklee, which is awesome. And he's got quite a list of accomplishments to his name. So, yeah.
Yeah, he's really cool. So what the way this is going to go, it's just going to be, I don't know how many of my podcasts you've watched or any of them or whatever, but
I like what you're doing, man.
Fantastic. Excellent. So there's no mystery. It's just going to be a conversation. There is one part I want to talk about because I don't want it to go down the debate road. I just want to, I want to approach it from a perspective of someone I'd like to know your perspective, but I will put my perspective out front, but open to whatever you're saying. I don't want any of my podcasts to degrade into a debate, right? Like, I want you to know how I feel about it, and I want to know about how you feel about it, and why I want to give the audience a chance to have their own takeaway instead of me ramming it down their throats or you. So, and I'm sure you know what part I'm talking about, which is that rating system.
Yeah.
So my perspective is going to be, from my perspective, and this is being recorded, but this is going to be cut out. I just don't want you to feel like you're hijacked or anything like that. No. So my perspective is just going to be, I'm not for it, just because the way I'm coming from this is from community angle and people who are feeling very vulnerable for the first time, and that are very much questioning their own validity when it comes to, is this art?
Yeah.
Right. And I'm trying to tell them that it is. Like, if you're creating something that didn't exist, no matter what tools you're using.
Yeah.
And my feeling is that the rating system is going to make people feel that they're different in some way, that the way that they create art, like, and that's my perspective. And I very much want it to be like, not an argument, but please, if you feel differently and why, this and that. So I just wanted you to have a chance to digest that and all that stuff, because I don't feel like you're stupid because you think there should be a rating system, because that's not my perspective at all. So
no, I mean,
it's just the way I'm coming at it.
Yeah, no, and honestly, I mean, you don't really have to edit any of that. I don't feel hijacked. I mean, this is as much it's a thought experiment. It's like,
yes.
And one of the things that I don't think people understand in the community. So just a real brief background on me is, it's hard to believe this, but I've been producing music professionally for like 40 years. So I've seen it all. I've seen samplers. I've seen 4-track tape cassettes when I was in high school. And all this technology is amazing. I remember what people used to say about drum machines and everything else. So the question here is, is it art? And like you said, does it require skills? What kind of skills does it require? And how to differentiate and define all these different categories? Because one thing that the community isn't really feeling or understanding entirely, and I've had a lot of questions about this on my channels, is what is copyright? What is authorship? What is ownership? What is playing? What is not playing? What is art? What isn't art? I mean, that's great. And this is the type of stuff we should be talking about. And as you're saying,
totally,
we should get all this out in the community, so that I don't want people to feel like they have to be closeted. You shouldn't have to feel that way. If this is what you're doing and prompting is the kind of art you do, then that's absolutely 100% fine. And of course, there's this whole gray area between the full-on musician and we'll just call it the AI artist, right? Somebody who's just doing things by prompting. There's this whole gray area.
And that's it. Even the language, even like we're afraid to, like, I try not to say real artists and AI artists. I try to say traditional artists and AI artists or whatever. But like, because I try not, in my language, I try not to devalue one or the other, and I'm finding like most of the people that I interview have been artists for decades, or at least one decade. But I don't want to say that we'll get on defensive and say like, well, a lot of us are musicians that have picked up music, because I don't want to devalue people that haven't. Like, some people are picking up music for the very first time through AI.
Yeah.
But I don't want to get all that. So I try to be careful with the language that I use, because I don't want to put anybody off. Like, some people are, like, I've talked about this in the past, like some people are put off for no matter what, and they're just waiting to be put off so they can launch. But But it is a good conversation to have, and we'll consider this interview started, and I'll let you wedge in who you are at some point, and I'll record a thing to put at the beginning about some of the stuff you've done. But let me just talk, because we are talking about the rating system first. Let me just talk about what it is, and we'll bring it up on screen because I have it here. So you had in one of your YouTube videos a graph that you did, the AI music rating. This is something I was going to bring in later, but I like the way things flow naturally in these things. So you have a level 0. All human made. That's 100% human performance. Absolutely no AI involvement at all. And then you got AI assisted level 1. This is minimal AI involvement. All human performances. Then all AI rating 2. More AI involvement. A mix of AI and human performances. AI level 3. All backing music is AI generated. Leads are human performances, and AI created entirely AI generated music, no human performances. Now, before I go in there, and I'll let you defend or come back or however explain it. I want to say, like, even in the AI music community, I want to say that pretty much exclusively and I don't want to put words in everybody's mouth, but I have to do something, like I'm giving an interview, so I have to. My experience has been that people in this space would tend to agree that if all you do is go to Suno and say, make me a rock song, and you hit a button and you do that 10 times and release an album, that's not even what we consider art. No matter how good create a really good rock song, right? And that most of us here aren't going to argue that should be protected. So that's not something that people should be advertising that we do. That's not the space that we live in. There's a huge range, but most people will spend hours just creating one song
Right.
in this space. So and that's anybody in the community. I'm sure there's some out there that do it and hide it, but that's the way it is. So I'll just give you a chance to explain that part of it, like your ranking system and how you came to that.
Yeah. So my objective, with AI is assisted music production. That's what I call it, assisted music production. And I want to do whatever I can, like on my YouTube channel and things, and in my Berklee classes, to use AI as a tool to assist with music production. Therefore, the more human you can have in the mix, the better, as far as I'm concerned. So in terms of all of those AI rating systems, so as I said, it's a thought experiment to understand what are the different levels. Because Bandcamp, as you know, just like said, like there's no AI. We're not going to allow AI.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, we're going to let the community police that. So to me, that is just asking for freaking problems. And I think you mentioned the same thing. So being able to understand the different levels is, to me, what's important. Now, I realize that this isn't ideally something that is going to manifest itself in terms of some sort of universal rating system, especially the way I see everybody coming together within their own frameworks, which is always driven by economic bottom line. Whether it's Bandcamp, whether it's Spotify, whether it's what is it? What's a new one? BeatStars just acquired Lemonade. But understanding these differences, and even within the community that you're talking about, is understanding the differences between, just prompting. You guys maybe aren't considering that art, whereas getting your hands in there within those levels of AI assisted 1, AI assisted level 2, and AI assisted level 3, where that to me is the meat and butter of AI AI assisted music production. And how can we do that? How can we use that? And how can we refine those tools? How can we make Suno stems sound better? How can we use Suno stems to edit them in our DAW to create better works of art? How can we use, like Bandcamp was talking about, use AI assisted songwriting to improve our songs? So
no, it's 100%. And I just want to make clear, I wasn't talking about prompting as a whole. Like, people can prompt in ChatGPT or whatever, and then refine. What I was saying is that we don't necessarily consider art is if you just go to Suno and say, make me a song. Okay. And that's it. That's the only, that's the only prompt that you put. And you do that 10 times and then publish it. Like, maybe it's a good maybe it's good entrepreneurship because you found a way to do it and make money off of it. But, and maybe that is, I don't know. I'm probably the last guy that wants to do that. So yeah, no, it's interesting. And I think, like you said, how does it get implemented? Right. Like, and you're talking about bottom lines and stuff. Like, Suno would be acting against their best interests even if they could implement this 100%, right? If it could know 100% what components are human made and what parts are AI made, even if they could basically do that and then tag some meta information into the song, so when you release it out in the world, it automatically tagged it 100%. Because if they do that, then you're an entrepreneur and you have an application, right? Somebody in somewhere else that doesn't have such laws are going to go, well, here's a problem I'm going to solve for everybody. You can do the exact same output. We're not going to tag it, and you can do whatever you want. And then everybody's going to migrate from Suno to whatever that platform is.
Yeah. And that's a really good point. I mean, wouldn't it be great in a world where we could say, this is what we're doing and not have to be ashamed of the type of art that we're doing?
I know that's the thing too, but yeah, sorry, go ahead. Go.
I think that would be just fantastic. But and that's trying to get some level of transparency about what we're doing as artists, all of us as artists, and how much involvement we have. And like I said, my purpose in life is to try to get people to encourage people to use it proactively. And like you said, not just, hey, give me a song,
Yeah. Oh, I've watched some of your videos. I love seeing guys like you and Bob Doyle play in the DAW and move stuff around. It actually is pretty inspiring for as someone who doesn't really pick stuff apart too much in a DAW. Like I Frankenstein pretty much stuff in like DaVinci Resolve while I'm making videos and move stuff around. So I'm not as skilled with the stuff like you guys to be able to do that. But it's very interesting, and that's one day I'd like to sort of get to that point. But when I feel comfortable with it, you know.
Yeah, and that is a really neat point, is like bringing in the fact that some people, I love that it's democratizing things, you know, like I've always had the idea for a song. So I'm going to go ahead and take my lyrics that I had the idea for a song and go into Suno and do that. And I think at this point, any of us that have experimented with AI have all experienced that level of emotion that comes with that. So that's just fantastic. And if that takes you to the next level, which is a big point that I want to get across, is that the more you know about music, the more powerful you will be, the better of an artist you will be in terms of accomplishing what is in your mind and bringing that out into the world. As we all know, when we've worked with Suno, it's kind of like a slot machine. I mean, there are people that are better with the prompting than others, right? To get it to direct their song in a particular direction, but it's still like a bit like a slot machine. So the more you can know about the act of playing music, whether it's, you know, I'm saying, you know, go learn an instrument, you know, but that takes time, obviously. And people that don't have that time, don't have that money to hire a whole host of session musicians and everything. The fact that you can go into Suno and do that now, and that's giving you that bridge into the musical world, that is fantastic, right? We can't, nobody can deny that, I don't think.
Yeah, I think nobody can deny it and be honest with themselves. I think some people are out there just to be hurtful or whatever. But I actually find it really interesting that people like of your caliber that are really serious music. Actually, I'll take it back a little bit. I reached out to my band teacher, my high school band teacher, who actually is a conductor at one of the, I think Northwestern University or something. I forget. I don't want to quote exactly. And I'm like, dude, I want to get you on for a podcast. He's traveled all over the world as a conductor for symphonies and all that stuff.
Cool.
I think he's pretty well known in the space now. And I said, oh, dude, I'd love to get you on to interview about AI music. And he goes, I actually don't know anything about it. So that was really interesting, because I thought someone of his level that's been into music so much, like a massive student, knows how to teach people too, and is a serious conductor, wouldn't know anything about AI music. But for the most people that I talk to, that are in my circles, that I have conversations with, people like you or Ben Camp, also at Berklee, or some of the people that I've spoken to that have been in rock bands, all are aware of it and tend to use it in the workflow in some sort of way, but also are very curious about, you know, how to implement it and how to make it, I guess, not seem like bad. So
Yeah.
let me just bring it back a little bit about, because I just want to talk about your experience. Like, you've been doing this for decades. You've been teaching at Berklee. You've been mixing stuff. You've been teaching students. Just give me a bit of your background, because for one thing, I don't want to be like, no, you shouldn't believe this. I'm not going to do this as an interviewer, because like, you're coming from a place of music experience way more than what I have. And I'm happy to admit that. So I want to hear from you, and I want to learn from you, and I want people to understand the credibility that you bring.
Yeah. Before I just start talking about myself, and thank you. I want to point out that, you know, the AI rating system, again, that I put out is a thought experiment, so that we can be more powerful in how we use the tools going forward and understand those things. And when you talk about my level of experience, I mean, not everybody, somebody who's just come into this and is using AI for the first time to make a song, you know, they know that musicians spend a lot of time in the studio and there's a whole process, but they don't know the details behind that. An AI rating system helps us to understand the details behind it. If you dive into that, you understand like what is being done at each step and each process, and how you might be using AI, how you even as an individual might be using AI to help to create that. So, for example, you know, the fully banned one is everybody is playing live music, live multi-track music, whereas opposed to level one, and this is something I bring up, you know, with the distributor that I use for my music and stuff is Symphonic. And Symphonic has asked that you label your stuff whether it's AI made. And I talked with the owner and I said, so are you guys differentiating in this stuff? And he's like, no. I'm like, so you're saying that if I recorded everything myself and I used an AI mastering program just to master it, that would be considered AI music? He's like, yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so the thing is that there's all these levels, and how are you using that? And where do you fall into this spectrum? So, and I think I'm now.
It's funny because I had someone at Berklee actually say that, like, go, you should be labeling. And then she goes, well, actually, I produce all the music myself. I've been doing this since I was a kid, but I mastered at the end with AI. So I guess in that way, I would probably have to label it with AI.
Yeah. Well, that's not the same. AI level, assistant level 1 is not the same as AI level 4 on my little scale, AI rating scale. Yeah. So just understanding that, and also understanding that this is not about copyright and ownership. This is about understanding the production level, which is where my head is at, understanding the production steps. And what are you using AI for in those production steps? Since I have a unique perspective because I've been doing it for so long, that I understand that, there's the multi-track, there's the songwriting process, there's the multi-tracking recording process, there's the mixing process, there's the mastering process. In between all that, there's a music production process. And for years, I've taught this process to take the song to a finished master that you can actually release professionally at Berklee Online. And so, again, that's the reason why I put out this rating system, and the reason why I defined it the way I did, because I have a background in understanding that entire process. So,
yeah, it's an interesting take, and like I said, from my perspective, like I don't want a rating system just because it basically says like you're different than this guy, right? And then I guess people that have been doing music for a long time saying, well, I guess the process is different, but like you've been for decades using technology, as far as I can tell. When I've done my research, you've been using technology for a long time. You're an early uptaker in long distance music production.
Yeah.
And so obviously you see this as different. Like, how is it different? Like, why do you see it different? Like, I think you mentioned earlier, like people that use drum tracks and stuff like that, when it was first started, people would have been saying the same thing. Like, you should label that because you're not really doing it.
Yeah.
So what's the difference now that this needs a rating system?
Yeah, and that's a great point. So like, right, drum machines back in the day, they were like, oh, drum machines are going to totally kill things, right? My rating system was sort of, as I said, is a response to both understanding the production process, and also people out there right now totally bitching about the fact that I don't want to listen to AI music. There's that.
Okay.
So
right.
I don't want to listen to. I mean, it's this whole knee-jerk response. I don't want to listen to AI music, and all these individual platforms putting things to, like what is it? Was it Sweden's charts right now? They just said no AI music on their charts.
Yeah, it has a an acronym, and I forget what that acronym is.
So,
and Europe has actually been going pretty hard against it.
Yeah,
but I forget.
So where does this stuff? Where do you sit on the spectrum? Because the more we can clarify this, the more we understand this, better a picture we'll be able to put out there as to, in the case of somebody who really works hard at producing AI music, is how involved they are in it. And these are the things that haven't been defined yet within the copyright system, within the training modes. So again, that's like why I put it out there, and the way I put it out there the way I did within this list is just to help clarify things, so that when Bandcamp comes along and says no AI music, then, okay, let's be a little bit more specific about this. If that's how you feel, and that makes sense to your economic underpinning, right? Is like, we want people involved. Okay, so then if you fall within this category above AI level, like AI level 4, then you can't be on Bandcamp. But is Bandcamp going to allow AI level assistant level 3? Yes or no? And Bandcamp should absolutely allow 0 and 1, right? I think they should allow 2 as well, and then 3 is up for debate about. But so that's just clarifying things, right?
I do like that. I suppose at that point, like if you want to have a platform like Bandcamp and say absolutely whatever, you could actually say this is it, right?
Yeah.
This percentage, because those numbers go to a percentage or whatever it is.
It's not. I don't go to a percentage. I do not go to a percentage in them. I go to a production stage. I'm a production step guy. This is production step. My production step, I record it, I multi-tracked everything, and then I'm going to master it. Are you going to label me AI music? As a band, I'd be pretty freaking insulted, right? That's not fair.
Yeah.
So, just clarifying that stuff is I think just so important.
Yeah, and no matter how you master it, you're still using tech to master it too, right?
Yeah,
unless you're sitting there in some kind of digital, some analog format with tapes or something like that, you're still using. Using tech to.
You're using tech, but you could master. Fully what I call level 0 is mastered by a human mastering engineer. It might be digital mastering devices, or it might be analog mastering devices, but no AI would be used in that. There's no AI assistance in that at all. So I've mastered, I've been able to go in and sit with these incredible mastering engineers. They'll take a master from something I mixed and or artists I produce, and they'll put it through this entire chain of analog gear, and they'll be working all the knobs and dials. That's human made. That's a human mastering chain right there, right? So that would be.
No, I get it. I just think I always think every time there's new tech coming in, it's it's labeled as illegitimate, right? And I suppose the digital DAWs that you have, even without AI, they probably were seen when they first came out is illegitimate, like the drum tracks and even the sampling and stuff, probably in some ways.
Well, yeah, there was
labeled that way.
The first thing, Matt, was synthesizers. Synthesizers are supposed to be the end of music as we know it, right? That didn't happen. What did it do? It spurred a whole new type of music. It spurred electronic music. Drum machines were supposed to take away. Drum machines, I think, are a great example, because drum machines are supposed to take away from the from session drummers, take away work from session drummers. It did take away work from some session drummers, but there are other session drummers who embrace the technology and use their musical skills, their musicianships, to program incredible drum beats on these drum machines, and they got work. So and then I kept going to digital multi-tracks and things for the home studios, and I'm definitely a music technologist. I've always used technology to help my music productions. So, so I'm excited about this stuff. But as a response to really the community and everything I'm seeing in the community constantly saying, hey man, I want to block all these people. I didn't think that was very clear, especially when you have.
I didn't think I didn't think your rating system was to block people. I think if people were to have to, because people right now in the community that 100% use AI, but they do it in a crafting way. They maybe craft a song over days, redo it and all that stuff. I think I worry very much about the self-perception, because a lot of people in this community are struggling mentally, struggling to feel validated, struggling to feel like they're heard, taking themselves out of very dark situations with this technology. And I'm afraid that a labeling system of this sort is for them to go you're telling me that I'm less. Is what because this is the space I'm coming from. You're coming from a very musical background that's worked with people in the industry and stuff. I'm coming just from I'm coming from a different angle. My thing is trying to protect these people who are just now trying to find their voice.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I feel that. And I mentioned that in that video is nothing should be less or more or less. It's just different. Movie ratings were put on there for people to know what to expect when they're going into the theater, whether they maybe shouldn't bring their kids to this particular movie or something. Does that mean that an R movie is better or worse than a G movie? No, they're different, right?
No. That's right. And you got to know what to allow your kids to go watch and all that stuff too.
Yeah. So I don't want to point people, and I don't think this is going to happen. I see what I'm seeing happen now is that each of these individual platforms are are creating their own framework based, like I said, on their economic bottom line. But still, when you have platforms, when you have distributors saying, mark whether you have used any AI, or we're not going to accept any AI in our charts, or it's just like, come on, man, that's not fair. It's not fair to any of us. It's not fair to the producer who's been working at this and is using AI as an assisted AI, and it's it's not fair to the band. It's not, so.
I can just imagine people that are watching this podcast and like, well, I'm just going to put 0 then. I didn't use any AI. But the problem with that is if you have like a real level of success, right? And then, DistroKid or whatever, if that's made, if that labeling thing, whatever comes into play and you've lied about it, then all of a sudden it's fraud. You basically entered into basically a contract saying you agree that under our rules that you've labeled it this way. And let's just say you made $100,000 or something like that. Well, now it's proven somehow and you got to defend it. And now you're in trouble, right? Like if these things come into place, you really should not be lying.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so much stuff that's shaking out right now in terms of copyrights, in terms of, the fact that Suno has trained on copyrighted material to produce the sounds that you're getting.
Yeah. But even that aside, I'm just talking about for the distributors themselves. If you enter an agreement that you're going to label your stuff properly, regardless of like the copyright stuff that the AI music takes from or doesn't take from, like you've entered an agreement with them. If I'm going to give you songs under these conditions and they're agreeing, they're going to pay you under those conditions. If they find out later down the line, and success is going to be like shining a spotlight on you. If you got that success, they're going to be like, okay, you lied. Give us our money back.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Or see you in court or whatever. Yeah. So now let's get to that part. Like, who are you? I do like to start off with that, but sometimes the conversation just flows.
You can reverse the whole thing.
I like to have it flow. I'll do a pre-recording, like, introducing Erik Hawk, bound for success because, he spells his name with a K instead of a C, and he has Hawk as a last name. It was always going to be, Matt St. Onge. I got to push a little bit harder because this messed up name that I've got,
I like your name, man. I always like that.
Yeah.
Saint in front of, cool. So, in terms of my background, in terms of why I was thinking about, the rating system in terms of thought experiment and defining where the levels of amount of production is incorporated into your music production flow, how much AI is used in your music production flow. So I have been producing music since the mid 80s. And I started off in my own home recording studio in the Oakland Bay Area. So I had opportunity to mentor with some amazing people back then in the hip hop days. Michael Denton, who was engineer for Digital Underground and KRS-One and all these great hip hop acts out of the Bay Area. So I got to be around that when I was growing up. And so that was a whole lot of fun. And from there, I went on to start writing because I was very much a tech head. I loved all the gear that was coming out. And I could never get enough gear. And that was from samplers to multi-track recorders. And some really big publications were also in the Bay Area at the same time, such as Mix Magazine, Electronic Musician Magazine. And I went on to start writing gear reviews for them. So they just kept throwing gear at me in my studio. So that was great. And so I've been very much a music technologist this whole time and music producer. And from there, I started writing some textbooks for Berklee College and their Berklee Press division, and then spun those in some classes for Berklee Online. So, and before that, I wasn't just, I had years of background training with some amazing jazz players in the San Francisco Bay Area when I was a kid growing up. So my father was one of the first DJs on K-Jazz out of the Bay Area, and he connected me with great teachers like Tuck Andrus and Patty Cathcart of Tuck and Patty of Windham Hill, and that was a lot of fun. So I have a musical background. I have just interest in technology, and I've been doing it for years. And so when I moved to Los Angeles, I specifically moved there for film and TV placements because I liked producing music. I liked using the tech. And so I got signed with a couple agents in Los Angeles for the past 25 years and did a lot of film and TV placements, which helped pay the bills between that and Berklee Online and raise a family in Los Angeles. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. And one of the things I was hoping you were going to talk about too is, and forgive me if I'm way out of line, with your Berklee thing, it was a remote thing. Or I'm not sure, I may be crossing things over. Your Berklee thing was remote and you had students and you were producing songs with people from all over the country.
Yeah.
That's what I was sort of interested in. I was interested in the early uptake when that stuff wasn't sort of being done. Like, it sounded like you were sort of a pioneer in using technology to take people in completely different areas and piece together songs.
Yeah, I mean,
if I got that right.
Yeah, no, yeah, that is true. I mean, the fact that we had capability, we finally got to a point in I guess the late 20 teens, so about 2015, 2016 going forward. We were starting to get enough bandwidth that we could really easily collaborate, throw files back and forth. I mean, Berklee Online, when we started in 2003, and then I authored, I'm one of the founding course authors for Berklee Online, so I started helping them develop music production classes there in 2006. But back in like 2003 to 2006, we literally, like, live class when we were working with students was text chatting. It's pretty crazy. Mm-hmm. So now we're all full on videos. We can do demonstration on videos. At one point I was just like, hey, let's get together a bunch of Berklee students and do some co-writing online. So, so I've been working remotely for decades now, both with music production students, like literally all over the world, doing co-writing with people all over the world. And there's so many great tools now, just like there's so many great AI tools now. They're just, I mean, it's, So, a good example of that is an album that I did with a bunch of Berklee students called Multitrack, which is, just a bunch of songs that I would put a drum machine into a session in Ableton Live. I would upload that session to Dropbox. And at the time, Splice was pioneering a system of almost like a Dropbox system for DAW sessions, that when somebody updated something in the DAW session, it would automatically write to that remotely stored file, so that the other person on the other end could just pick it up and go, ooh, that's cool, I like that, and do an edit on it and send it back. That was a Splice. I forget what that was called, but that was interesting. So yeah, a bunch of Berklee Online students, and we just wrote a bunch of songs together, put together an album called Multitrack, and I've since had some students doing remixes of those songs in some of my Berklee classes, because it was kind of cool to keep it all in the family and just keep recycling the material.
Yeah. No, I just think it's cool. I think it's cool that you were able to do that at the time, and sort of, I don't think it would have occurred to people that they could do that, or get the connections, because that's very much what this community does right now. Like I do my live sessions. I don't know if you've seen any of the live sessions that I do, but I'm constantly saying, keep an eye on, like, while we're watching people's music, keep an eye on who you like, talk to them in the chat, and then sort of do some collabs. And people are doing really cool collabs using AI, and the ones that are really good at DAWs are mixing up with the DAWs and all that stuff. So this is just an extension, I guess, of what you've done. But I think it's really cool when you have limited tech back in the mid 20 teens or whatever, and you just found a way to make it happen. I just think it's really cool that you sort of did that.
Yeah, and I mean, you're right about in terms of the technology and things. I definitely would like to see more of that too, and I've experimented with that in some of my YouTube videos in Suno already, which is like, hey, what happens if I take this track that I recorded here, put it into Suno, and then have Suno produce it? We can do that we can do that with other people adding additional tracks to the track that we have. So we're infusing more and more of ourselves into AI and letting AI do the hard work. I mean, they were always talking about that, right? It's like AI should do the hard work for us. And we spent like 30 plus years trying to do vocal takes and comping together the first take, the best take from like 20 or 30 vocal takes that we would have the vocalists do. And then we'd sit there for hours, comp all that stuff together. If AI can do all that for us now, why can't we do the recording and then let AI do the production? You know?
But that's a really good point too. And that's a one way I constantly see people come through my emails talking about how they use AI that way. So like, why would people push back on it? Like, if you need to get a demo going to figure out the best version of a song, and it means you have studio time and you have to get people in a room or however you do it and the expense to it. And then really at the end of the day, no matter what, you're probably going to settle, because otherwise your best version is going to take 6 months. If you can cut 6 months into one day and then go and actually do the actual recording, like, what wouldn't you consider that a good thing?
Absolutely.
Right? Like, exactly. Why would you push back on that?
It's a tool. It's a tool. And, you know, I think some people are pushing back on it. First of all, the what is it called? The skill barrier, you know, is you know, some people feel personally insulted that it's easier for people to do something like that. So I think that's a really big thing. People are pushing back on that. And some people are just,
I'll talk on that too, because we have a mutual colleague in Ben Camp that teaches Berklee online as well. And he teaches the lyrics thing. And he basically put it in perspective for me that I had to understand exactly what you're saying. Like, somebody spent their whole life in learning what they personally are in music, and they pour that out, and it takes them time, and it's out of their soul. And those people feel that you push a button and you can have what I have. And I think, okay, I can sympathize with that. I really can, because you're feeling that those people are feeling that your entire essence of life is replicated by you pushing a button. And that's your feeling. And I can understand that would be hurtful to you, because that's what you feel is happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can't discount that feeling. It's a, you know, I mean, listening to this stuff the first time when I generated some things out of Suno, I was both completely amazed and totally terrified. I mean, to be honest, I mean, it's just like, I've never quite felt that feeling before. But you know, when I sat back and I listened to this, the one thing I'm telling students now is, you know, we spent 30 or 40 years trying to edit the perfect take. Now you can sing this take and not stress out about it. Like, sing out of your heart, be emotional, let all that emotional flow, and don't worry about trying to get the perfect take, because we have AI now to help create that perfect take. And we can do it where it took us a whole day of editing all these comps together. Now we can do it, boom, in like a couple minutes. So I see that as a really, really powerful tool going forward. And I want to use that. And, you know, so the other part of people pushing back is that skill barrier, but also playing live, and people worried about being disingenuous about, like, hey, you know, I found this amazing artist. I just found out I wanted to go see them live because I love their songs. I love what they're speaking to me emotionally. And then, like, I can't see them live because they're not a real artist. So I see people getting pissed off about that. So that would be the other flip side of that on the consumer side. So I have a fantasy, and I actually teach this in my Berklee online class, and I'd like to expand on this, is how can an artist who has produced all their material through AI, notice I didn't say AI artist, but
good.
Notice,
Thank you.
Like, how can they go out and play that live? Like, would you like to play one of your songs out live? Now, some of them might not want.
I would love.
You would like to?
Yeah, I would love to if I could play an instrument. Yeah, I mean, I used to sing in a band. I could do the singing.
What if I told you you could do it without playing an instrument?
Yeah, explain. Tell me more.
So you could go out and play live. So Ableton Live is a software, you've probably heard of this DAW program. It's designed specifically to play pre-recorded music in loops and snippets. It sits somewhere between a DAW program where you're tracking everything and a DJ who's playing stereo mixes. It gives you the ability to put your hands on your stereo mixes and to cut and chop and and refurbish and remix and recycle. So if you could learn how to take the stems from a song that you created, put it into a program like this, and there are other programs besides Ableton Live that will allow you to do this, and then go out with a MIDI controller and play that in front of people live. Would that be exciting?
Like a DJ.
Like a DJ, but different. So DJ is only playing stereo mixes. Generally, that's just traditional DJ is just playing stereo mixes. 2 turntables, a couple of stereo mixes. They go back and forth between those stereo mixes. And then there's gray areas where DJs start incorporating more and more samples into that. And then there's, if you push those boundaries even further, there's incorporating MIDI controllers into that. And the MIDI controllers aren't necessarily something that you don't have to know a scale on. You can use those MIDI controllers to play and trigger parts of your song. So you're like almost remixing your song live. And then you can incorporate live instruments on top of that if you wanted to. If you were a singer, you could do some vocals on top of it too. Or if you had a friend that wanted to come in and play guitar with you. There's a whole world that we haven't even started exploring yet for artists who produce all their music with AI to actually take that out and do it live, which I think, again, is like taking this technology and bringing something new to everybody and not having to deal with this pushback on, oh, you're an AI artist, you can't play your stuff out live. I think there is a way to do this.
Yeah, I think it's genre dependent too. Like, I think there's probably an expectation of, like, I did a bit on in Japan. There's a pop writer, and that pop writer writes pop songs for all female. It's like some group, and the group has like 20 females in it. Mm-hmm. And at any one point he writes a song, he picks the 20 females to perform that song, right? Like 5 of them at a time or whatever. But the competition was they basically loaded all his material in, and it was a competition with himself. So and it was on live TV in Japan. They didn't say which one was AI produced and which one wasn't. So they basically loaded up this person. He created a song by hand, and AI created a song based on all his works. And the AI version of him actually won. And it was like 100,000 people voted or whatever. But in that genre, because it was like Japanese pop, you can perform it, and you could be the writer of that person, put it all together, but you're not performing it. It's all those women are. Or, an EDM track, like you could produce that stuff and you could go up as a DJ. There's different ways that you can perform that music depending on the genre. Even rock, like you can look at Boston, right? Boston was all produced in the studio. Yeah. And then afterwards, everyone was brought in after to perform that. But, you think about that. So it can be done. Yeah.
Yeah. The difference is, like with Boston, I mean, there were skilled musicians playing all those multi-tracks in the studio. So again, that skill barrier has to be crossed. It's like, how can you, and Berklee a few years ago, I think maybe it's in 5 years now. When you get into Berklee, the actual brick and mortar school, you have to declare a principal instrument, the instrument that is going to be yours, that you're taking with you through the whole curriculum. Maybe
keyboard.
Yeah. Well, I was going to talk about that. So most people, principal instruments would be like vocals or saxophone or drums or something, right? There's a new principal instrument that was introduced about 5 years ago, and I might have been 4 years ago, but that principal instrument is a MIDI controller. You can declare a MIDI controller
that is interesting
instrument, just like your keyboard there.
Yeah.
And when you go in to do an audition, you have to take your MIDI controller and your laptop. That's the instrument. Like, so the laptop makes a sound, the keyboard or the MIDI controller is your principal instrument. And they'll ask you to, okay, play this melody. I'm going to give you some sheet music, and you play this melody. So if you could play that melody or play this rhythm on your QWERTY keyboard, that would be your principal instrument. That's a MIDI controller.
Yeah. I've noticed that Berklee is very much open to dialogue. I think they're very heavily interested in AI. They're not pushing back on it. I think this is such a rare thing with people in general and institutions in general, especially, again, they have every interest. I guess you would think they'd have every interest in protecting what they've always had, but they're going, okay, what is this then? Explain it to us. Why don't we be open about dialogue? Why don't we see what it is? And why don't we be involved in it? I've very much respected, like, I've come across Berklee as Matt, AI DIY, the AI music guy, music is for everyone. I keep stumbling across Berklee, across everything, and I find that extremely interesting that that's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. They're the ones that first adopted jazz, as at a traditional university level, when everybody else was poo-pooing it. And then they took up turntablism. Are you familiar with what turntablism is? Actually playing
Is that
turntables.
like, yeah.
Yeah,
I've
literally
never
playing.
heard that term, but I imagine what it was just by the words.
Turntable is like, I mean, if you say, play this rhythm, they'll play a rhythm on their turntables. And
Wow.
so turntables was something that they took up, and then MIDI controllers, and now, looking towards the future with how can we use AI in our music productions. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think if and digging in that way and learning what it is and learning the limitations and like being open to how people are using it, I think they can basically steer a lot of the conversation, because being open about it means you're in the conversation. You're not basically just,
Right.
building up a wall and then making opinion based on what your perception is of 1% of what you know.
Right.
Like they're basically digesting every single bit. I'm really impressed as a music school how open they are to the conversation part of it. And actually in June, I was going to talk about this with you offline. They have this other thing that they're doing, which I'm planning on going to,
Cool.
the AIMS AI Music Summit. I don't know if you're doing that.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm doing it or not yet either. I'd have to actually get on a plane and fly out there. But
Yeah, so would
yeah,
I.
I know Jonathan
I have
Weiner.
to fly past where you are and then go there.
Yeah, Jonathan Weiner is yeah, he would have to go that direction. Jonathan Weiner, who's with Berklee, is organizing that. Him and his team, which there's a name for, I can't remember the name of it. You can look it up. It's like it's specifically to embrace AI moving forward and to bring it into the conversation, the music production conversation. And I've said this a few times on my like Instagram posts and things. It's so important for all of us as artists. And I'm not calling anybody out, in particular, like skill level. I'm just saying all of us as artists, we need to get in there and be part of this conversation. It's important for us to dictate the narrative going forward and not just let the companies who are controlling this stuff do everything. Because if we just keep our mouths closed and just use things verbatim, then we're not in charge of the art coming out. We're not helping to form this story that has not been written yet.
Yeah. And that's why I think these kind of conversations are important. And I try to have, and other people to have their conversations too, is because I think, you have real conversations and talk and be open and honest and vulnerable about the stuff, because decisions are going to have to be made at some point, or they're going to be slowly made over time. And I think when you have real conversations like this, I don't think it's like, I guess it's like ethics or all that. Like there's times where you can challenge whatever decisions are made. And if you challenge them in sort of outlandish ways or over the top ways, they're always going to fall apart. But decisions have to be made. And I think if we try to do the best we can to have the most honest conversations that we can, then the best decisions can be made over time. And those decisions can be changed, but things can be happening. Like you said earlier, it's all the Wild West at the moment. And us in this space, we'd love it to stay this way forever. We can do whatever we want right now. But there has to be a point where because see, people are every day in the Facebook groups, can I do this? Well, that's already been answered. We don't know. And blah, blah. Yes, you can do this. No, you can't. It'd be good for us to know what you can and can't do, like from a legal standpoint, from ethically, like these are the boundaries that and I suppose like even if things are decided legally, I guess ethically that's not decided. It's just like this is some law in the line in the sand or whatever.
Yeah, no, that's such a good point, because like after that last video I did about Suno, I've been getting all these emails and things from companies outside of the U.S. asking me to, wanting me to pay me money and do sponsorships. And so I don't want to do sponsorships. I don't want to get paid by anybody. I want to be honest with my reviews and looking at these tools and talk about how we can use these tools. One company even gave me a whole script they wanted me to follow, and I just like, no, I don't think so. You got a cool tool, but these companies that are in China and things, like I look at their websites and straight up, you want to do a copy of Ariana Grande's voice? It's right there. Now, is that kind of a copyright infringement? What do you think?
I think if you're directly saying you're copying her voice, I think that enters a very bad area.
Yeah.
I think you can accidentally get some outcomes that you're not aware of if you produce in Suno. Like I don't know what Bob McFairlane or whatever sounds like. I've never heard of him, and if I have his voice in one of my songs, I don't know, and that's being truthful. But if I'm going Ariana Grande, bang, and that, like, there are some platforms you can go to where it's sampled voices and they're produced either from AI or from a person from permission. If you have a subscription, you can use that person's voice, and that's fine. But yeah, I don't like the idea if you can go to some of these platforms and say copy that person's voice.
Yeah, Ace Studio. So because the copyright laws are different depending on where, like, what nation you're in, and you can't. The copyright laws don't necessarily. There are some things established that are supposed to cross nation boundaries, but they don't. And right now, and some of these companies out in India and China are just doing whatever they want to. How can we use these tools ethically? Like you said, like I think it's Audime and Ace Studio and I think it was IK Multimedia.
Yeah,
they all have trained vocals that they are using that are ethically sourced, as in like a person has helped to train them and they've allowed their voice to be used.
It's like clip art, I suppose. It's like clip art or like sample art, anything you use like in Canva or whatever. It's there.
Totally. But
anyway, I found it interesting because like I'm approaching like every day by 2 or 3, I guess, Chinese applications or whatever else that want me to pay. And some of them want me to do a script, and I won't do a script. And I spoke to Bob Doyle about this too. He absolutely won't do. I will take suggestions from the application to say like they want me to discuss certain features. Like, yeah, but I'll say straight away, like I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to say exactly the things you want me to say. If you want me to be honest about it and do an honest review, but I won't do it anyway if it's a piece of crap. So like, I'm not going to say this thing's crap because I would have reviewed it ahead of time, and I'm not going to take the money to review a crap program. But
yeah,
but yeah, I will do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm only going to look at those things that, like, there's one that came to my attention that they were asking me to do a script. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. But I actually thought their program was really cool and it could be used for a step in the production process. So I'm going to look at it, but on my own time.
Yeah. Awesome. Look, we'll anything that you want to promote yourself, because I didn't get to my tiers that I like to do, but one of the things is I like to give people, because you're giving me your time. If you want to promote something of yourself, like some of your music that you do, and I'd like to play some of your music with your permission. Like I'll get a YouTube thing saying you're playing this copyright thing, so I'll be like, I got permission, but I want to make sure I get permission to play anything, just so people can have an idea of the sort of music that you put out, as an example. If you want to do that, I know people like to hear that. Or anything else you want to promote.
I don't really have anything specific at the moment to promote. Is besides come join me on my YouTube channel and let's keep the discussion going, and
we'll do that too.
Learn about some music production tips and tricks that you can use. Where you're using AI to help make your production flow quicker, more effective, more efficient. Because that's what I'm all about. And then musically, I can give you some links or something if you want to. I'm kind of across the board here. I do EDM music. I do hard rock, and I do synthwave, and I work with different artists. I'm not working with anybody.
Yeah, awesome.
But because I love music, all types of music. There's certain things I don't do. For example, that country song I did in Suno, that was cool. That I actually wrote. I wrote it as an alternative song, but I put it in Suno and asked you to do a country song, and there you go. I had a demo for a country song. I didn't know I'd written a country song.
Yeah. I one of my first songs I did because I was getting so frustrated with Suno. No matter what I put in, I was getting a country song. So I wrote this song. Suno got my prompts wrong. Now I got a country song. It was just like. It is always country, but I swear to God, I want rock. Here's some twang. I literally say negative prompt twang now. So yeah, well, if you want, you can send me a link, but I'll definitely link to your YouTube channel and all that, so people can have a really good idea of what you're all about. I'm definitely going to be digging in a lot more, because I don't think an hour is enough time to dig in to find exactly what you do. But I think it's really interesting because the history you have around music, your affiliation with Berklee. Is there anything else that I missed on? Because I'm limited to what I can find about you through your YouTube channel, through your LinkedIn, looking at known associates, going to ChatGPT. What else can I ask, sort of stuff? So I get this is one of the reasons I like doing the podcast. So like, okay, I don't know anything, and now I'm going to find a bit of research, and no, that's an interesting person, but I can't know it all, right? Like, what else should we know about you?
And I don't really have a good list of things. I mean, I have a little blurb on my website, erikhawkmusic.com. But because I work with under different pseudonyms, like there's a point where the Grammy Association just turned me down because they couldn't find me. You know, I'm okay with that. I'm just like,
same.
You know, it's like I'm not trying to. I do it for the art, and I love helping people. If I can help people, that's really where it's at.
Yeah, so. I think there's a lot of commonality in that too. Like people here are just doing it for the art. I think there's people that have no dreams whatsoever of making $1 billion doing their music. They just feel good making it, and they feel good when they know people are listening to it, and that's it. That's their entire motivation. So I think a lot of people, if people find the commonality in that, I think things will settle down over time.
Yeah, it is nice to get a paycheck too. So I mean, you know, the fact that
there's that. Yes,
people have been getting money.
There's that. There's an entire section on entrepreneurism that I wanted to touch on with you too, because it seems like you are, but that's awesome because we can set that for a panel for another day.
That would be cool.
Be really good.
Yeah, so. I will say simply that I am absolutely amazed that I don't have a big hit, but I've managed to stay in the music industry from, you know, basically senior year of high school and just stay in it the entire time, my entire professional career, and somehow make a living in it. And there were times when I was ready to go work at Costco or something, but then I got a deal, but I've somehow managed to stay the whole time. And it hasn't been because I've done one thing. It's because I've done multiple things in the music industry the whole time and just kept busy on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think that's a specific personality trait that you need to have to be able to make it in music or yeah.
Yeah, being an entrepreneur is definitely, I think it's important, especially if you're not. So I'm more of this is one thing I learned at Berklee is composers, performers. I'm more of a composer, meaning that I'm not the type of person who's jonesing to get up on stage and be in front of a bunch of people. I honestly kind of don't want to be. I will if I have to, but I'm not like, oh, I got to go play on stage. Composers tend to be that way, and they will write entire scores for a movie, and they don't have to be on stage performing it, as opposed to the rock star performers who need to be up there. And that's kind of its own talent. That's its own thing. It's its own personality. I have a lot of respect for that. It's not me, but, you know.
Yeah. You know, it's its own thing too. Like I've mentioned in previous things that I used to be in a concert band in high school and in a marching band too. And it doesn't necessarily have to be an ego thing. Like I didn't love the process of being up on stage, but I love how it felt. I couldn't explain it at the time, but I loved how it felt to be in tune with like 15 other people and to be performing and having like adjusting, like almost feels like adjusting your soul to meet everybody else's soul.
Yeah.
So, you know, sometimes obviously with rock stars, sometimes it is an ego thing and that's fine too. But I remember it is a different, like composing and creating, it's a different feeling than actually being and performing. And one's not right and one's not wrong, but it's a different feeling that you have performing with other people or composing and putting stuff together, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah.
And maybe, like you said, like you don't have that desire and need.
Yeah. The synergy there when you're actually playing with other people is exciting. There's no question about it. And I think a lot of us, I think that's one reason why I do vibe sort of with AI community is like being able to sit down and compose and work and create an art, something that you can hear, something that's tangible.
Yeah. Cool. Look, Erik, thanks like 1,000,000,000%. That's a percent now. I love every single person that comes and joins me. Like, I just think it's the coolest thing to just sit here and talk, like to have a topic to talk about it. And now I've got thousands of hours of being able to form enough to have a conversation. I love talking to people with thousands of hours from a different perspective and seeing what you bring to the table and having that conversation. I love it. So I really thank you for coming on and having this chat. Definitely, if you can give me your links through email, whatever, we'll promote it out. But anything you want to say in parting, like I would love to hear.
I mean, thanks so much for having me on. It validates me in a way that I'm out there trying to bring something to the AI community and the production community and marry these things together. So I really appreciate you having me on and talking about this stuff, because it's such an important conversation to have, because we need to get in there and understand all the steps and have this conversation so that we can be the writers of the story going forward and not just letting corporations dictate everything.
Yeah, agree. I mean, they're going to have their say for sure. So I appreciate that. Do definitely want to stay in contact. And if you do end up in Boston in June for the Suno event, I imagine we're going to cross paths. I definitely want to meet some people out there. So I'd be looking forward to catching up with you then. We'll be in contact. Matt, AI DIY, the AI music guy. Music is for everyone. AIDIY.tech is my website. Check it out. Thanks, Eric, and we'll catch you in the next one.